So what is music copyright? And also, with all these videos flying all over social media, are you safe? And are you getting the money that's owed to you? So music copyright is the protection of original tracks and also making sure that the owner has say over who can use them and also gets what's owed to them. In other words, making sure nobody steals your shit. So what musicians don't know is as soon as you've written something, it has copyright. And if you rewrite that song 10 times, each one of those versions also has copyright. But the problem isn't having copyright, the problem is proving the copyright. So therefore, you need to get your music timestamped to prove that your music is yours and written at a certain time. That's why now is the best time for being a musician within copyright. So back in the day, which was a Wednesday, before computers, music was written down or it was recorded onto, say, a cassette tape if it was recorded on a 4-track or an 8-track, and this had no timestamp. So musicians used to physically send a copy of something in the post to themselves so it had a date and a time. Nowadays we don't have that because most of the stuff we do has a timestamp, whether that's on email or if we upload it to, say, YouTube. The Latin term prima facie means at first sight, which means if you can prove something was written at a certain time, then it's up to the other side, the other party, to prove otherwise. So what can you copyright? Well, you can copyright lyrics, melodies, songwriting, recordings, but what you can't copyright is chord progressions, to a certain extent, depending on how complicated those chord progressions are. You can't copyright song titles and you can't copyright concepts. And also what we've learned is you can't steal anything from Marvin Gaye. However, with the emergence of social media and also technology changing as fast as the speed of light, these copyright laws have got somewhat blurred lines. I know you want it. But Damian, copyright law was specifically designed to protect our creativity from these blurred lines. I know you want it. Well, actually, that isn't strictly true. Copyright law started specifically to tackle censorship issues. So way back in the day, there was a fat king, and this fat king had a fetish for chopping off the heads of his family members. Now, he had a problem with unlicensed scriptures, as they were called back then. You see, back in the day, books were handwritten, so the inventing of the printing press changed everything, and it meant people could pretty much print what they want. And it was just like the invention of Spotify. All hell broke loose and fake news was very much invented.
Fake news.
So Henry VIII introduced the first copyright law, which was that everything written had to go through his council and his advisors. In 1557, Queen Mary I was getting slated by the press, and this was not a bitch you messed with because she had killed over 280 people. I know you want it. So in order to keep this censorship going, she started the London Company of Stationers, which was effectively a censorship bureau that said what could and couldn't be printed and put out to the people. So fast forward a couple of hundred years and many updates later, and we have our creaky, slightly out of date copyright laws. The issue is there's a lot of grey areas since the introduction of social media platforms like Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and SoundCloud. We are uploading at the speed of light, and technology is changing as fast as the speed of light. But policing this has become incredibly difficult. So how much of a song can be used before the copyright kicks in? Well, this is subjective, and if it does go to court, it comes down to the ordinary observer test, which effectively means if the man on the street can tell the difference and says, effectively, these two are the same thing, you're in trouble. So how long does your copyright last? Well, it lasts for 70 years after you die. So effectively, any money you make after that will still go to your estate. And also, who cares? You'll be dead. So how does copyright permission work? And can you make a cover and distribute it and make money from it without permission? Yeah, you absolutely can. And nobody can stop you doing that, although you do need a mechanical license. But if you're uploading your music to, say, Spotify or iTunes via a distribution service like DistroKid, they do all of the work for you. for a nominal fee. So what about sampling? Can you take a piece of someone else's track and put it into your own track without permission? No, you can't do that because this now needs a sample license. This is about who owns the master and not about who owns the publishing. So you need to get permission from the person who owns the master recording, and they can say no. And when it comes to charging, they can charge as much or as little as they like for you to use their recording. So do I need to officially copyright my music, or can I just upload it to YouTube? Well, technically, yes, you can just upload it to YouTube. And the reason is because that has a timestamp. Same thing when you email an MP3 or email your music, it will have a timestamp. However, something might go wrong. You might lose that email, or maybe something could go wrong with YouTube, or you could delete that piece of music. So if you want to be squeaky clean, you can register with the US Copyright Office, or if you're in the UK and Europe, you can also sign up for PRS for music. So how does the royalty split work on copyrighted music? Excellent question, me. Okay, so every song is split into two things, publishing and masters. The publishing is the lyrics, melody, and composition, whereas the masters is the recording and also the performance. So if I write a song and I sit with my acoustic guitar and I play it and I record it and I upload it to YouTube, then I own 100% of both the publishing and also the master. And if then you do a cover of that, then I still own 100% of the publishing, but you own 100% of your master. However, if that song was co-written by both of us, then effectively we would split the royalties. And how we split the royalties is up to us. It could be 50-50, or it could be 99% to me and 1% to you. But it's completely up to us on how we split it, as long as it's clearly documented from the outset for any problems that arise later. But what you want to know is about the money.
Show me the money.
So royalty splits are different depending on whether it's music sales or music syncs. Music sales, selling the music. However, music syncs is adverts or potentially even video games, etc., and getting your music placed onto something. So for music sales, which is a mechanical royalty, the split is roughly 90% to 10%. It's actually about 91 to 9. And 91% is about the master, whereas the 9 to 10% is about the publishing and the writing of the song. And if that song has been written by 3 people, then that 9 or 10% needs to get split down again into the 3% each for those songwriters. Now, sync royalties are different because this usually tends to be a 50-50 split between the master and the publishing. So now you can see where the songwriter could start to make some serious wonga. Wonga! Imagine if you get your music placed on an advert and they pay $100,000. All of a sudden, there's 50,000 of that that's going towards the publishing. New car for you. But the big question is, how do you get these monies? How do you get the money for the copywritten music for your work? Well, if your music is on a streaming service like Spotify or Apple Music or iTunes, then effectively the distribution company will collect that money and send it to you. Very similar to YouTube and AdSense. It will be collected up and sent straight to your bank account. But for all other music collections, you need to sign up to a music collection service. So for example, in America, there's ASCAP and BMI. In the UK, it's PRS for music. But they will do the hard work for you, collect that money, send it to you in a nice big sum of money with a report telling you where your music's been played. So I think that's everything I can think of about copyright. But the main rule of thumb is make sure you're documenting everything, whether that's the lyrics, whether that's the music, make sure it's got a timestamp. If you are co-writing, then make sure you've got the percentages written down, documented, and that is also timestamped. Your job is to make it squeaky clean and bulletproof, so should later on down the line someone have a bit of a gripe with you and want to take you to court, you can prove what was done at the time of writing and recording. My brain. So if you've got any questions or any comments, then please leave them down below. Now, I am not a music industry lawyer and I'm not a copyright specialist, but Obviously, I've been through this a few times, so I understand how it works. So hit me up if you've got any questions, but otherwise, do me a favor, like and subscribe and come and be a part of this community, because we're doing this all the time and I'm so proud to keep in contact with some amazing musicians. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Let the gods down and